So in this part of the tutorial, we're going to be looking at doing a rough arrangement of our track. We've got most of the elements there that we're going to be using, or the main elements anyway, and we want to just sort of lay it out and give ourselves an idea of what's going where, and then we can work on effects and sort of building things up. So it's a good idea. I like to get into an arrangement early. I think it really helps you lay out your track. You can play around a lot with, you know, sort of building up loops and listening to it back and dropping stuff out and dropping stuff in your, you know, live view, and you end up just going round in circles and don't really get anything done. So it's a good idea to sort of lay it out and see how things are flowing together. So I'm going to just rename some of these before we drop them in. I think these drums are slightly different. Call these drums 2, just so we know that they've got the extra elements in them. And then we've got all our other elements which we'll be bringing in, but we'll just grab the drums first and drop these in. And we want to be working in sort of 8 bars. And this will give us some nice structure that we can sort of have risers happening at almost every 8 bars. It always sort of feels like something's happening. So we'll just grab these drums at the start. And then we've got our tom as well, so I'll rename it. I'm going to drag it over here with the rest of the drums. But keep it out of the drum rack, because the drum rack's got the different compression on it. We want to try and keep this quite sort of separate from it, so it's not sort of getting compressed as much. And we'll grab the tom and drop it in. And we'll maybe have it coming in sort of a bit later. And for this first tom, just want to sort of have it not so driving. We just sort of want to have it build it up, because we're going to use a sort of faster tom in the main driving section. And we'll move our bass over as well, just to keep things organized. I like to sort of start off with drums and then go bass. We'll need to rename these. Grab that in. So maybe have that there. And then we've got our chords, which sort of we're going to use at the first part here. These are going to be building up. And obviously we'll be putting sweeps in and doing all our filter automation. So we're really just getting a rough structure at this point. And then we'll grab our whole sort of chorus section. And we want it to sort of, again, build up. So we'll sort of take out the leads and the bass. We can just have this section sort of dropping in, filtering up, and then we can sort of have a bit of a dramatic drop into this whole element. So, you know, you can sort of start to feel that vibe of we want to try and keep sort of short sections there. Everything wants to be rising up, and then we want these sort of dramatic moments that we're building up to. And then we're going to have quite a long sort of riser build up, and these are quite common in Dutch house. You know, we've got a riser section here that's going to be almost as long, or the exact same length almost, as our chorus section. And then after that, we sort of drop back into our like a driving section. And this section here is where, you know, you really want to have this build up maxed up to the maximum, and then just sort of really kick in. Your kick comes back in, and your bass, and you want to have like all these separate sections are so defined. They really do their own job. A lot of the sort of tracks I hear on the forums, they sort of tend to float in and out of sections, and sort of there's not as big dramatic drops. And Dutch house, you really need these sort of dramatic moments and sort of big changes. So we're going to build up out of this, drop into this sort of driving section. That's where we can add the other notes in our tom. And we'll also be bringing in our driving pitch lead. And we may even just drop straight into the kick without any of the drums. And again, in a club, when you've sort of built it right up and you drop it down, you're going to get a real bunch of impact, you know, dropping down to just the kick, the bass, and sort of your big lead sound. We may make this section a bit longer, depending on how sort of well it rolls and what we need. So, but ultimately, this section here that I'm highlighting, this is the sort of crux of your tune. That sort of drop down into the chords and then back out, big riser into your sort of driving bit. And this is the bit that we want to really sort of repeat. So I'll grab this and we can duplicate time. And I'll maybe just make this section a bit longer as well. And that already gives us this sort of 4 minutes, and at that point you'd be sort of looking to get out of your track. And although we're duplicating these two areas, we're going to sort of have a bit more of a, you know, bit of variation in this driving section here. Maybe using sort of different effects, or we can duplicate one of the sounds and sort of pitch it up. So that gives us our rough arrangement. And in the next video, we'll start sort of adding some filter automation and effects.